Career Development. Thank you, Lisa. We're delighted to have you join us today. Before we get started, I do have some light housekeeping items. So as you can see, we're hosting today's session in meeting style. Feel free to keep your camera on or turn it off, whichever is your preference. We will be recording today's session and distributing it to all who have registered. You'll notice that you're currently muted, and we do ask that you remain muted when you're not speaking. This is meant to be an interactive session, and we'll have the opportunity to break into smaller groups potentially, depending on our size, or we'll stay in this nice size for a discussion after the panel and some networking. We'd love to get a sense of who's here today, so please put in the chat your HGSE degree, your program or concentration, where you're joining us from, and your current role. And lastly, we have closed captioning available for today's session. If you'd like to see the captions, please click on the CC/live transcript button, then click on show subtitle. You can turn off subtitles by clicking on live transcript and then click hide subtitle. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce today's facilitator, one of our wonderful HGSE Alumni Council members and an EDM graduate of 2011 from the International Education Policy Program, Anne, welcome.
Hi, thanks Emily, and hi everybody. It's great to be here. And it's just, this is a new format from the Alumni Engagement Office, so I'm just excited to see everybody here, everybody taking the time out of their busy days to really, try to engage with each other in a different kind of way. So as Emily mentioned, I'm Anne. I'm a current member of the HGSE Alumni Council, and I'm an IEP graduate from 2011. I've worked over the course of my career, I would say, in pretty much every facet of global education that you could name, from the classroom to the international organizations. I've done it at some point. And I'm currently the managing director of Inlet Partners LLC, where I take this, sector level knowledge, and I work with different types of clients and partners to really think about strategic planning, and thinking about sort of more creative ways to engage with global education through ed tech, just through simple tweaks in, internal policies, programming, things like that, just depending on, kind of where people are at and what their organizations need. So to get us started, we're going to have a panel with our wonderful panelists, Trisha and Lily, and Kanupriya is traveling, so hopefully she'll be able to pop on as soon as she gets into her hotel. But I will pass it over to Trisha to introduce herself and give a little bit more context.
Hi, yeah, thanks for the invitation and the opportunity. And as I mentioned kind of earlier, we were chatting a little bit. Also nice that this is like at least East Coast time, like the lunch time. So it's a good time to jump in, at least for me. But my name is Trisha Tibbetts. I'm the technical director for education at the Palladium Group, which is a for-profit management consulting firm, and we do a lot of development for USAID, FCDO, and DFAT. I think a lot of people don't know Palladium. It's kind of Australia, in the US, Australia based. So that's the big HQ. But for people like that have heard of Chemonics, we kind of function like that. We're sort of a soulless, but efficient company that works in the international development world. Before I joined Palladium, I guess I've been with Palladium for about 2 years. And before that, I worked for about 8 years for Save the Children. I was director of the Learn team there. And if I had a dream job, that was probably it. Like, that was a pretty magical job. I really loved it. I had a great team and I got to travel and I just learned a lot for the whole 8 years. I think of myself as sort of a Swiss Army knife of education people. Like, I do a little TVET, a little higher ed, but if I had a specialization, it's probably early grade reading and inclusive education for early learning. And I can talk more about that if that's of interest. Before I worked at SAVE, I was a foreign service officer for like a minute and a half for about 3 years, which was great. And I met some great people. That was great for networking, but not a match for me, like with my how I like to spend my time. And then I worked for the World Bank as a long-term consultant, I don't know, for probably about 7 years. And before that, I did little things here and there with different INGOs. Yeah, I think I have 2 kids. I have a significant other, and I kind of split my time between Savannah, Georgia, where I live, and he's posted in Abuja, Nigeria. So I spend a lot of time in Abuja as well. So yeah, I think I'll stop there and pass it to Lily. I'll give her a minute to find the mute button. It always takes
Good morning. I'm so sorry about my internet this morning. It's in and out, but I'll try my best here. My name is Lily Ellebrock. I'm an IEP graduate.
Did it go out?
And I don't know if that's Lily or me.
No, I think it's Lily.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
clearly. Yeah. So Anne, can I ask you, I don't know if this is for later in the conversation, but did you want us to talk a little bit about like our time at Huxley and how that's influenced our life?
Yeah, like why don't we start with that, and then when Lily gets reconnected and kind of Priya gets on, we can kind of go a little bit further. But yeah, why don't we start with that, Trisha? That sounds great.
Yeah, that way I won't get into just the minutia of my my work life, I guess. Yeah, so my time, so I went to, I'll just share, I went to undergrad at Smith, which I loved, and then my year at Huxley, which was amazing and continues to be really helpful to me. And then I did my EDD at George Washington after that. But the time I spent at Huxley was great for me. I mean, I think I learned a lot in my courses. I tended to do more, I was not an international ed person. I knew that's what I wanted to do with my career, with my life, but that wasn't my program. I was looking to pick up, I had worked for AED, another organization, for a while overseas. And so I knew I wanted to kind of collect some of these like more, I don't know what, practical, like very concrete research skills. So I did more kind of on the stats and the research side of things, and a little bit on curriculum design and development. That's what I worked on. And so all those things were very helpful for me in terms of doing my work and in terms of securing employment, like right after I was able to, that was very useful. But I would say the biggest thing was which I don't know if this is a good thing to say or not, but the truth of the matter was the network. Like I just met all these amazing people during my year there. And I had mentioned I worked for about 8 years for the World Bank as a long-term consultant. And I worked, my manager was a colleague of mine from that time who also did the master's at the same time. And we were great friends and we remained close as friends. And I worked for her for 7 or 8 years. And I remember other friends in our circle said, is that a good idea to work for Shahrazad? You're so close. You're such good friends. That would put, what is that going to do for the friendship? And we both just said, oh, well, we'll see, it'll be fine. And it was amazing. We only got to be, closer and I think not exclusively the people I met during that year, but the folks that I came to know during that year. And I mean, my students, my master's degree student friends and peers, like they're the people I have on speed dial when I'm like, oh man, I gotta go, I've got to go to Malawi. I haven't been in 7 years. I wonder who's been. Like, does anybody have a contact at working level at UNESCO in this place? I wonder if anybody knows, like, because if they don't know, they all know somebody that knows somebody. So, and that's huge. Like I don't know. I think that's really important. And they're just lifelong friends. Like these are people that like were at my wedding. Like my friend Shahrazad flew out when we adopted our first daughter to kind of help and support, so there's that like magical part of it too.
Yeah.
I'll stop there and see if maybe somebody else has joined or wants to jump in.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, just in terms of that, like, the power of the network, but also like the lifelong friends / colleague. I don't know, if anybody who is, on video, or if you, want to take yourself off of no video and just kind of raise your hand if anybody else has also had that experience, because I've definitely had it as well, just in terms of really, building these lifelong friendships and connections. And, sometimes it's like, do like what is that line? I don't know, like especially, like later, like when I'm meeting people later in my career, but like I know that for the people that I know through HGSA, it's like, yeah, like the line is fine wherever it goes, whatever the role is, and we can all adapt to it. I don't know, has anybody else had similar experiences? Jazib, do you want to
Yeah,
take yourself
hey.
off mute?
Oh, am I still on mute? Let me see.
No,
Oh, okay.
no,
I should
no.
be on mute.
There, yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for holding this session. Yeah, actually, that's been my experience. I think I've come across a lot of Hugsy people in lots of interesting things, and it's such a global program. You'll find people all over the world, even people maybe who weren't working outside the US before the program. A lot of them end up doing work in international schools and stuff. So just connecting with people through this common interest of knowing what schooling is like, what education is like in different regions is really helpful. And I think I particularly work in the tech space, so I'm always looking for contacts and people who are doing edtech stuff. And I think I've seen Hugsy people both specializing in edtech and even with other backgrounds and interests, kind of working in edtech all over the world, and just very excited about talking about different aspects of it. And I think we came across a lot of students at Harvard and MIT generally interested in edtech, even if they weren't majoring in it. And just being able to tap in those networks. I mean, I think Harvard has its big networking night on the 16th. And no matter where you are in the world, they try to put together an event around that. So I think the biggest thing is the community and meeting people.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Does anybody else, have a similar kind of experience? And I love the fact that you brought in ed tech there, because I think that that's something, that for, some of us who didn't graduate in the last 5 years, it wasn't necessarily a focus, unless you were in that program that was specifically focused on it. And especially in the global space, it's expanded so much that it's something that I think we all need to at least know how to work with, if not, get into the technical details. So like the sector changes, we change, we evolve. Yeah, and Trisha's point in the comment. Yeah, no, Trisha, do you want to take yourself off mute?
Oh, sure. No, I was just thinking, yeah, I mean, I am definitely not an ed tech person or an ed solutions. That's not my expertise, but yeah, I mean, I just think that the COVID lockdown and made us realize that, I don't think well, I'll just speak for myself. Like that was really a silly point of view that I had, that like, oh no, I don't, that's not what I do. Like other folks, specialize in that. That's not for me kind of thing. And then I realized all the kind of trainings and coachings and support that were always hybrid, but like for that moment, like for that, whatever it was, 18 months, they couldn't be hybrid anymore. It just had to be virtual, more or less exclusively for most teams I supported. And there, I just met a lot of, I think it wasn't, there were so many sad things and we lost people, I'm sure everybody did, but there was this generosity, I guess, too, like, and so I had a lot of people that were willing to to help me and help others just to at least figure out our piece of the ed tech and ed solutions so that we could so we could do more. Yeah. And just like all of this, like things, I don't know, little things, free things like Kahoot and which I don't know, I can't, I don't see, I can't see everybody on camera now, but all these things probably everybody knew how to use, but like Menti, like I didn't know how to use all, I knew how to be a participant, but I didn't know how to chime in. So, but yeah, ed tech, it's for everybody.
Yeah, Drew, do you want to? I saw you pop something in the comments. Do you want to take yourself off of mute?
Could do, yeah. Just following up with the ed tech during the pandemic, I wound up doing some consulting work and training the trainer when, for example, the Kamehameha School District in Hawaii was trying to go fully online, and I've been working since 2016 under Dr. Tracy Tokama Espinoza at the Division of Continuing Education at Harvard, working on a course called Introduction to Mind, Brain, Health, and Education, which is a fully flipped, fully online model. And they took to that model, and I wound up just spending a lot of time with ed tech, trying to onboard in a panic situation. Obviously, some of them, like Kamehameha, had actually adopted something like Canvas, Zoom model prior to the pandemic. So they were a little bit above, but onboarding 1,100 teachers was a challenge, and so I'm just agreeing with you basically, Trish. That's all.
It sounds like a lot of us, myself as well, you know, I've sort of been thrust into ed tech the last 3 years or so. And it's definitely been, you know, a journey, you know, in a way where before I used to hop on planes, and now I I have to take the journey in a more virtual way. But is there anybody else who's also kind of, you know, inadvertently or on purpose perhaps, but, you know, really engaged with ed tech in a different way in this global space?
So slightly different. I can see that Lily's back on, I mean, without the video, but I don't know
Yeah,
if she
Lily?
wanted to chime in with her, like to join, if you're
Yes.
able to, Lily.
Definitely. And, you know, Lily's coming from, you know, a school's perspective, which is I think just so important, you know, especially when we're talking about teacher training and all of these pieces around, you know, some of the work that we do, you know, with these international funders, but it's so different to be like based in a school and, you know, working on it from that perspective. Lily, are you able to come off mute? No? Okay. Well, hopefully she'll be able to come off of mute soon. You know, I get Emily, can we move everybody so it's not just me and Trisha? Can we
Yeah,
move it to
Lisa, will
the,
you unspotlight the folks so that it's
Yeah.
a nice size group?
at this point, you know, because
Change everybody to gallery.
I think let's just try to maybe have a conversation. I
Yeah.
don't think that this panel thing is gonna pan out for this one.
I know. Technical difficulties, we're all pivoting.
Yep.
And
we've all
nobody
learned.
wants me as a panel of one, I can assure you.
Is it okay if, you know, we all just introduce ourselves at this point? I think that there's enough people here so that like it won't be too overwhelming. So for people who haven't introduced themselves yet, I mean, Ryan, are you okay introducing? I'm just seeing like who's on camera and, you know, who seems a little more accessible here.
Sure, that's fine. Hey folks, my name's Ryan. I am originally from Texas, was in East Africa before I moved back to the US. I'm now in New Haven, Connecticut, manage a college access program housed at Yale that focuses on the African continent, IEP class of 2022. I don't know if there's other things I should say, but I feel like that's the quick and dirty version.
That's great.
I can popcorn it to someone else.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's popcorn.
Let's see, Edward or Ed, don't know.
Sure. My name is Ed Dieterle. I'm an executive director at Educational Testing Service, or ETS. My day job is to speak on behalf of our research and development division, which is over 900 full-time employees, to engage with other organizations to figure out how and in what ways we might partner and better bring measurement to the masses. We have multiple contracts with ministries of education around the world to help them think through assessment and measurement modernization, as well as to take on specific projects. And I will pass it over to Drew.
Good to see your face, Ed. I know we've talked a couple times in the past. My name is Drew Nelson. I'm currently in Denver, Colorado. Graduated 2013 Mind Brain Education cohort under Kurt Fisher. Hi, Emily, as well. We've never actually seen each other, but I know you take over for Mahmoud. Let's see. Currently working with Tocama Espinoza in 1609 at Division of Continuing Education, fully online cross-reg class, introducing the mind, brain health, and education concept to the Division of Continuing Education students. Spent last number of years in Germany working with the German Aerospace Center, also in In education, in online education in its way, this was the development of what was called their Strategic Foresight Network, which was an online collective intelligence platform that hosted a prediction market that allowed the 10,000 employees of the German Aerospace Center to contribute in terms of strategic foresight management ideation, whereas they were not hired for that position, but with the collective intelligence approach, getting insights from all these, I think 9 of the 10,000 employees have PhDs or something, 47 institutes and everything under the sun. And so bringing those all together to work with the House One strategic ideation division was the primary focus of that. What else am I supposed to talk about? I forget. Is there anything else? Where am I? What am I doing? When did I graduate?
Yeah, no, that's great. And if you want to popcorn it to somebody else to introduce themselves.
Sure, would love to. How about the new one, Delaney? You want to talk?
Sure. Sorry, everyone, for being late. I didn't think I was going to be able to make this meeting, but I did. So my name is Delaney Honda. I graduated from the International Education Policy program in 2020. I am currently located in St. Louis, and my current position is with an organization called iMentor, which is a mentoring organization that works across the US. I'm a research associate in that role with our organizational learning and impact team.
And can you popcorn it to somebody else?
Oh, sorry, I don't know who has not gone. So if you pop your name in the chat, I can popcorn over to you. I don't know if Sarvazad has gone. We were also in the same cohort.
How about, is it Jazib?
Go. Hi, Delaney.
Sure.
Thanks.
I can go ahead. Hey guys, I'm based in Lahore in Pakistan. I graduated in the program formerly known as TIE, I guess I should say now, in 2019. In Pakistan, I head up a software services company of about 200 people. We do like outsourced app, game, and web development. And a lot of what we do is in the edtech space. So we've done projects with Common Sense Media and Sesame and some of the organizations I kind of interacted with while I was at Harvard. And we've also done kind of development for several startups out of Harvard and MIT. And we're also talking to the Scratch Foundation at the moment. So fingers crossed that that one works out. Besides that, I've kind of maintained my interest in the more academic side of edtech as well. So I teach at one of the main universities in Pakistan here. I've launched a course on innovation in education, and I'm currently launching one on play-based learning now. And generally, I've done some interesting consulting stuff for different edtech companies. For example, through the MIT LEAP program, I'm consulting for a company called Little Thinking Minds right now. And they're an Arabic language learning gamified platform, and I'm helping them improve their learning outcomes and retention. So yeah, I dabble in a couple of these side projects every now and then. But yeah, I'll now pass it on to Javeria, since I've met her in Pakistan before, and it's pretty cool that we both ended up at Hugsy later.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jazib. Good to see you here. I'm Jazib. Sorry, I'm Javeria, and I met Jazib. It's been 3 years, right? Yeah. So I graduated from Hugsy last year, and I run a school in Pakistan. So it's a democratic school, and I've been running it for the past 8 years. And initially it was just a K-12 school, but now we are branching off into other interesting projects. So we have an online platform now for learning as well. That's kind of goes hand in hand with the project that we have on campus. And now we want to launch a self-directed learning space. So we are working on that. But other than that, I'm right now also kind of exploring other opportunities internationally, like consulting projects and other stuff like that, because I feel like I've been working within my community, within my circle for a very long time. It's been 8 years and I've been working at the school. So I just want to explore other stuff and see what's out there for more like an intellectual kick. So yeah, that's what I've been at. I think I'll pass it on to Patricia if you haven't been, because I joined in late, so I'm not sure who has gone yet.
I think Emily put something in the chat, so it looks like
Sarah, maybe.
Sarzad. Am I pronouncing your name right? It looks like you're next.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sarah Vazad. I was in IEP 2020 as well. I worked for a while within international education in different nonprofit spaces before going to Hugsy. And then after Hugsy, I was working in a ed tech called 2U. As an admissions counselor. I'm no longer working there now and kind of trying to explore coming back into international education. So I just wanted to see what the opportunities are. At this point, I'm thinking more so like returning to higher education, like working with an international student services offices. And yeah, I'm really interested in helping international students as well as study abroad students as well. And I'm located in Maryland.
Great, thanks. Rochelle?
Rachel, yep, thank you.
Rachel, sorry.
No worries. So my name is Rachel. I am also from the program formerly known as TIE, graduated in 11. And I'm calling from Bloomfield, New Jersey. And I kind of took a circuitous path after my degree and really spent most of my time in schools doing ed tech, but also doing like classroom teaching, and then eventually becoming really focused on DEI in schools, diversity, education, equity and inclusion, excuse me. And so I'm actually looking to transition out of schools specifically and see, I'm here as well to explore what is available in the global education space, especially from a DEI perspective. And I'm really excited to be here. I think I'm supposed to pass it on to Sarah.
Hey, I'm Sarah, and I'm in Miami at this very moment, actually trying to take on the governor with some local, other local officials and local leaders in the educational community. I do access and equity in the admission world, in the higher ed admission world. I've been on both sides of that desk, but am currently looking, and I work with a lot of international students, both helping them get here and helping our students get there. It's quite a moment in Florida, as you probably know, with just a lot of potential impact on some of the policies that are being implemented. I'm literally walking to a in the wind. I'm literally walking to a school board meeting right now to try and find out, how we can make allies, but also just communicating literally across the board. I'm usually based in Cambridge, which is where I'm from, but right now I am I've been in Los Angeles for about a month, meeting with 1619 Project, Nicole, and just trying to find out what's coming next. A lot of work on AI and the impact of AI in education across the board. So very excited about that, and in a creative way, not in a fearful way. But mostly, as I said, sorry if it's hard to hear me. But mostly I'm working on DEI work. So thanks. Sorry. Yeah.
No, we can hear you.
At least there's no snow right now.
We can hear you great, and that's amazing. Like there's so much going on, and just seeing you out, like literally out there is a nice, I think, breath of fresh air for these kinds of meetings and networking kind of things. It's great to see you. Thank you for making the time. This is awesome. And I think Lily is back. So Lily, if you want to introduce yourself, unless she's frozen again. Looks like, okay, maybe not. And Brian, okay.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Libby. I graduated in 2020 from the higher ed program. I actually had, in my experience at HGSU, was that there wasn't a lot of crossover between higher ed and the international education program, but I actually did have some interests that spanned both. And I'm still in Cambridge. I work at the college in the study abroad office. And so I work with Harvard College students who study overseas for a semester or a summer or an academic year. And pretty much my whole career has been in study abroad. I worked at Tufts before I came to Harvard. And before that, I worked for an education nonprofit in Boston. So yeah, just looking to understand and sort of get connections to spaces other than higher ed and other than study abroad, but still very much interested in continuing my career in that area. My wife is from the UK and is also half French, and so eventually we may move back to Europe, and so also interested in looking at what opportunities might be over there, and what kind of a career I might be able to have over there if it's not American students studying abroad.
Awesome. No, thanks,
Did I pop
Brian.
it to someone?
Yeah, it looks like Lily is unfrozen and Kanupriya just signed on. So
Hi, I'm so sorry. We got stuck in the rain and the hills, but I'm here now. I'm really sorry for the delay.
do you just want to, so Kanupriya, just to catch you up a little bit, we moved this to just sort of everybody just introduce themselves because it's a relatively small group. So if you just want to introduce yourself and, just tell a little bit about, your job and, your experience when you were at HGSE, that'd be great to get started.
Sure, great. Thank you so much for this opportunity to interact with the other alums and the students. I currently work as an education specialist with the World Bank in the South Asia unit. I'm primarily working on projects in skill development and education in India and Sri Lanka. And I graduated in Hugsy in 2012, which was 10 years ago. And I didn't join the bank immediately after graduating. But I think the best part about being at Hugsy was just meeting the diverse classmates and cohorts that I had who still continue to sort of be a network that I tap into at all points of time, be it professional advice, be it job opportunities, be it just for personal, friendships that I've curated. But I think the biggest takeaway for me, because I don't come from an economics background, was the microeconomics class that I took, which was Microeconomics Tools for Education, which was for someone who now works in policy. I thought that class was something that really helped me look at issues and challenges from an economic perspective, which I hadn't typically done because I was coming from a background in education, but working with small nonprofits where we were looking at smaller scale, tiny initiatives. But when you're designing policy, which is nationwide, and in a country like India, which is almost a subcontinent, you have to look at some evidence and some data. So I stop there, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Lily, it looks like you're back. Maybe your internet's a little more stable.
I think so. I hope so. Let's try this again. Can you hear me over there? Okay, perfect. My name is Lily Ellebrock. I started a high school. It was originally a high school, grades 10 through 12 in Ajijic, Jalisco, Mexico. We're about in the center. 12 years ago now, we then opened junior high, and 2 years ago, we opened the primary section as well. Can you still hear me? Okay, perfect. I think so. We're a bilingual community. We're also an international baccalaureate school. We were the second IB school in the state of Jalisco. We talk a lot about intercultural understanding and respect, and we've been having a lot of conversations about the difference between the 5 Fs and what really building intercultural understanding and respect looks like. I think we had another school director here in the chat. Is that right?
Lily, I think you froze. Again. That's okay. That's okay. Give it another maybe 5 seconds to see if she comes back.
I think I left again.
Oh, no, there you are. There you are.
The global networking tomorrow night, either virtually or in person.
Lily, you're back.
Okay, I think.
Did you hear that? Oh.
I think there was another director of schools here in the chat. Is that right?
Joaria, yeah.
Perfect. So thank you to everyone for this opportunity to interact as well. I've been able to hear parts of most of your introductions, so this has been really wonderful. I think we're just in the introduction part, right, Anne?
Yeah, that's it. And I think to make this move a little more quickly and a little more interactive, now that we all kind of know that who's here, and I know Emily's going to send out contact information at the end, so everybody will have contact information to find people on LinkedIn later. Knowing that so many people are in, what's really impressive to me is that we're talking about half of the different programs that used to exist at HGSE before they did the redesign, and people just doing all these really big different things. I think that we all have our own thoughts about global education, and I just want to ask, what does global education mean to you? And I'm going to pass it to Patricia to get started, and then if you want to raise your hand or popcorn it or whatever makes sense, but let's just hear each other's thoughts on what global education is, since we're coming from all different backgrounds.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. I don't think I have a particularly sophisticated definition for myself. I think for me, global education is just quality education everywhere, for everyone. And I think it's a really easy thing to say, but it doesn't often happen that way. So I think about when we talk about, or when we use terms like global education in my work, I immediately think to inclusive education and education for people sitting kind of at the risk of sounding super jargony, like the intersectionality of marginalization, so those that are at greatest risk and paying attention. But it doesn't have to be an exclusively kind of a Southern looking lens at all. But yeah, kind of quality and access of education for everybody everywhere, and just being really mindful of not just saying for all, or for most marginalized, but really making it happen. So yeah, I mean, I'll pass it to Delaney, and if you want to just, it's not an on the spot thing for people that might be multitasking, you can also just pass it to somebody else.
I really like your definition, Patricia. I don't think I've really thought of when I think of global education, I immediately think of international education, but I know that's not synonymous. So I think when you're speaking, I was thinking, yeah, it is not just a Southern facing, it is inclusive of, everyone that we, that's, living on Earth. So I really like also thinking about the intersection. That's something that I've been thinking people and who are we missing when we try to educate. We hope that we're reaching everyone, but of course we might not. All right, I don't know if I should pass on to someone, or if anyone else has something they want to jump in on.
Kanupriya, what do you think?
Yeah, I think global education to me seems completely different from what's been said. I think it's more given the multicultural scope of our work, where we work in countries across the world. I think for me, global education really is that, okay, we try something in Peru in a small community and it showed some learning gains. Is there a way to bring it to another community in another part of the world? So how can we have that cross learning that sort of leads us at the end of it for better learning outcomes for the most disadvantaged. I feel like global education is something where there is a fair amount of knowledge exchange, addressing challenges together, because there really isn't a silver bullet to address the learning crisis that we have right now globally. So how can we really leverage everyone's expertise?
I love that. And just that, like, you know, make the tent bigger, make the pie bigger, make it so that everybody feels like there's a space for them in all of this. Jasib, I see you popped something in the chat. Do you want to come off of mute?
Sure. I was sharing a memory I had from Hugsy. So I recall that I ended up taking, of course, the bulk of my courses in TIE, and I was still very intrigued by IEP, and I was thinking of how to learn a bit more about that. And I just remember there was a chance to kind of attend the final presentations of lots of classes, and one of the ones I ended up attending was the class on refugee education. And I thought that was really eye-opening, because a lot of people had picked the areas they were from or knew the most about. And for example, for an area like the Balkans, I mean, I've heard a bit about the Bosnian side, but there was someone there representing kind of the Serbian side and the refugee issues in education. And it was very insightful to hear her perspective. And similarly, people had talked about their experiences with refugee education in different regions, whether Philippines or Korea or something like that. So I realized at that point that, you know, refugee education in itself is like a really big topic. And later, when I got a chance to interact with Sesame and Mr. Joe Black's classes, that topic came up again, that, you know, they're really focusing on refugee education. And I've seen the kind of projects they're doing, and it kind of comes into my own work at different points, EdTech projects for refugee education and play-based learning for them. So just kind of getting that exposure to the kind of project students did has linked up to a lot of things I've looked at later.
I love that you're bringing in this intersectionality, you know, which, you know, Trisha mentioned, and I think like I tried to allude to with like how many different, you know, people from how many different programs and experiences we have here in this room. You know, what do other people think about that? You know, especially if they didn't necessarily come from a traditional like international kind of program.
If I may jump in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So while I was at Harvard, I also noticed that a lot of courses that we had, obviously they were coming from a very Western lens, right? It was a lot about education and policy and things happening within the US. So I would often find it hard to find courses that were bringing us information and bringing us wisdom, cultural wisdom from other parts of the world. And I feel like that's also incredibly valuable when you're working on developing projects that are innovative, right? Because we get so accustomed to looking at education from a specific lens, especially when all the literature and everything that you get to review is particularly coming from one source or one region, right? So for me, global education is really tapping into the local context more and more and trying to figure out what is it that the different parts of the world have to offer, and then coming up with ways of rethinking education and kind of coming up with ways of sort of tying that with the design of the children, like how children learn, and coming up with innovative solutions to learning. Like it doesn't always have to happen through schools or through ways that we have always thought that education should be imparted with. So yeah, my take is a lot more about like gathering whatever is out there and trying to use it to build something interesting.
No, that's awesome. And what is interesting, you know, it depends so much on the situation and the people and kind of what they're working with and what makes sense, you know, for what they want and what they need.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Drew, I see your hand raised.
Only just that's exactly what I would want to piggyback off of, which is I was like, I'll go next. Yeah, the whole idea of the whole weird bias and that in the research and expanding and exploring basically the role of individual variability and contextual factors that influence human developmental psych and everything that goes on, like cognition and learning and all that. I couldn't agree more with what you're saying about how and to what extent, right? Did any of these things affect, you know, also just that idea of getting that only action has the power to translate knowledge into wisdom, kind of get there on the ground, see what cultural neuroscience means, see what cultural shock means, and your own reverse cultural shock means. I mean, I learned more about English through German in the last 20 years of my life than anything. But yeah, we have a couple Fulbright alums here who did the teaching assistantship, and what global education means in that regard, just getting you over there and being, the mind brain education program and everything that's in the mind brain health and education program at the DCE is talking about embodied forms of cognition. And there's just no way to get that kind of knowledge without embedding yourself in the situation. And I mean, we have 26 students in our cohort this year for this semester for that course. And yeah, I don't know. I couldn't agree more with everything that's been said. Am I supposed to?
No, it looks like Ed just popped something in the chat. Ed, do you want to?
Sure. So at the beginning of the pandemic, Chris Dede and a few other folks started really a movement called Silver Lining for Learning. And they thought that it would just be, a couple of episodes, bringing people from around the world to kind of share their experiences with ed tech. But it's been up and running now for years. And I'm just amazed at how devoted that group of people are to having an episode just about every week. And just the diversity of people who have come on to the program and shared what they do and what they know about education technology. In chatting with Chris, one of the things he shared recently was just that despite spending his entire career thinking deeply about innovative and emerging technologies, he said there's just still so much to learn, especially beyond the borders of the United States, to understand not only how people are using the tools, but how they're thinking with them and teaching with them.
Yeah, and I think that this gets to a really great point about innovation more generally, which, Jawari also brought up, just like, what is it, especially when it's coming, from so many perspectives in so many different ways. And it's a really, powerful way to think about like intersectionality driving innovation. So I have another kind of general question, maybe, because I'm just curious, for everybody who's here, just, what motivates you professionally? And how does that motivation keep you questioning and curious and engaged in this really broad global education space? Because there's a lot going on, and it's ed tech, and it's interculturalism, multiculturalism, all of these different like ways that things overlap, that we've been talking about. So yeah, like what keeps you curious and engaged?
I know that the work that I do in the mind brain education space will outlive me. That I'll be working on these questions until I die, and it won't be answered. And that's fine, because it's a process, and so I like that there's this I don't even have to worry about answering it. All I have to do is worry about pushing the ball down the field a little bit. And when it comes to global, I think there's also this aspect of having value. I think I have more value outside of the United States, just because I do bring these perspectives, and there's a certain appreciation. I've spent many years in Germany and Austria teaching, working in different ways, and that mostly always in education context, and that just there's an added value there that inspires me. I feel like I'm sharing something that's outside of the cultural norm.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Ed?
Sure. So, in general, I'm deeply interested in the societal level conditions and institutional practices that either enhance or constrain learners' opportunities, resources, and well-being. In other words, how can we make humanity better through learning and teaching? Right now, where most of my learning questions reside is around measurement. So it's not necessarily around high stakes snapshot assessments that determine whether or not you have a great life or something that's not quite as great, but rather to say, if you don't know where you are, how do you know that you're improving? And how can we use measurement as a tool to inform, guide, and instruct? That really drives me because there are many in the educational ecosystem, especially in the United States, who see measurement as something that is not an opportunity, but rather as a constraint. And those are important conversations to have so that we don't lose sight of the importance of measurement.
And what measurement can show and also cannot show, and what
Okay.
questions can come up. And Sarah, I think you're next.
Yeah, sorry, I can't raise my hand because I'm now driving. So um, it turns out the school board meeting is a mile away. So yeah, I do have my I read band books button on. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to bring that into the school board meeting or not, but we'll see. Yeah. But I just wanted to say that I alluded to my enthusiasm for kind of what's coming down the pike with AI and the virtual world. There's a lot of fear around it, and particularly in access to education, but I am so excited about it, I have to say. The potential is obviously there for use and misuse, but particularly on a global scale, I feel like there's so much opportunity, so much possibility for creativity, for innovation, for collaboration, and a lot during COVID, I met with international colleagues for, on a weekly basis, a number of different international colleagues, which I never could have done before in that productive a way. So, and with students as well as colleagues. So I'm very, very, very excited about, in a slightly nervous way, but mostly I'm really super excited about the potential for using new technology to create social change, to create access, to innovate, and in literally every single field. So I just feel like it's touching everything, and I'm genuinely excited about it. And I'm interested to hear I don't know if you saw in the chat, but I was trying to see if anybody was going to the global networking meeting tomorrow night for, I guess, across the college, but I'm really interested to hear how people in different fields are thinking about this as well. So besides just, we cool Hugsy folks.
The coolest Hugsy folks. Kanupriya, what do you think? What motivates you?
That's a tricky one because there is just so much, but I think just coming off of this field trip today, as we fund governments and government systems, for me, really is seeing the happiness on the beneficiaries' faces, right? So today we were at a plantation site in Sri Lanka where we've set up this ECD center that didn't exist before the pandemic. And you have these 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds coming in. The center opened about a month ago, but they've gotten used to what formal learning is. They knew it's 11 o'clock, so it's mealtime. They were all sitting at their desks with their lunch boxes ready to be served and eaten. So I feel like the moment we are able to touch our beneficiaries, and we as people who've designed and implemented those projects, we can see those happiness in these eyes of children, young people, and youth. I think that's what I aspire for. So whenever we design a project, or we talk to our clients, or we talk to our borrowers, or we talk to our academic experts, the question really remains is that whatever we are doing, is it helping that child in the classroom? Is it helping her learn better? Or are we just sitting in our ivory towers and just talking off of our heads, right? So I think staying grounded, but also staying connected to what's happening globally is a big challenge. But really seeing the happiness in the beneficiaries' eyes is something that really motivates me. Thanks.
No, that's so beautiful and like so powerful, just to remind ourselves of that too. And sometimes especially when we're thinking of tech and we're removed and everything, like physically removed. It's easy to forget. So thank you for really highlighting that. Trisha, what do you think? What motivates you?
Yeah, I can piggyback on that. I mean, just thanks for that. I think this idea of like kind of solving a problem and like moving the needle on early grade learning, particularly for kids with learning differences or learning disabilities, like that's very motivational. And that's not the only thing that's motivational for me. I think, and it's not a linear thing and it's not a progression at all. But I think over time, like that's something that's continued to motivate me, is this sort of moving the needle thing. I think what increasingly though motivates me is to be of some use to my team, like to be of some support, of some like utility to the folks that that I'm working with and that I'm supporting, that report to me. And I think that becomes that's a bigger part of my motivation these days than it once was. But I don't necessarily think, I think there's an ebb and flow to these things. I always have to be really mindful, like remind myself, it's something I try and check myself, like I really want to, make a difference. I think that's sort of how I started with this 35 years ago. But I think there's a real, like that white savior stuff is ugly and it's real. And like, I have to check myself all the time on that. Like, so to be of some use to my team and to the teams I support, that's great. It's great when it's great. And I just try and, kind of do a pulse check, and then the other kind of ugly thing that I'll mention, because it is motivational for me, is money. Like that's definitely motivational for me. There have been times where that hasn't been important. What's been important is doing something interesting or working for this manager or something like that, or working in this location. I'm having a lot of Sri Lanka envy right now. But at this moment in time, like, yeah, it does. It makes me feel good when I get a promotion, I get some extra, and I get a bonus at the end of the quarter. That's also motivational. And I don't find that contradictory. I feel like I can be really motivated by moving the needle for kids learning, particularly kids with learning differences, and be pretty excited when that bonus like hits my account at the end of the quarter. So I'll stop there. And I would only be delighted if people took issue with any of that.
I'm not taking issue. I think it's a question of balance. Sorry, Kanupriya.
No. I just wanted to jump in and say I 100% endorse that. I mean, at the end of the day, all of us have bills to pay, right? We're doing this because we're passionate about this, but we also have families to feed and bills to pay. And if we can do that, but also have meaning and do things that we are passionate about and just have the two coincide, I think that really is motivational. And really kudos to you for accepting that, because, in our line of work, you have to be like very altruistic and like, no, it's not about, it is about the money, like, it is about everything, but it's not the money like the corporate greed that we see. So I think it's very important to sort of acknowledge it. I just wanted to like agree with you.
And if anybody disagrees, when I know we're almost at the hour, you can also reach out directly and take it up with Trisha and have that conversation in a different kind of way that's not being recorded. So I know we're at time. I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm personally looking forward to connecting with everybody later. I think this was, an awesome, if a little bit unexpected, way that we had a coffee chat, but it felt like a coffee chat to me. So I hope that you all, enjoyed it. You feel like it was a good use of your time for the hour. And I'm just looking forward to seeing where these different like threads of conversation go, and passing it back to Emily and Lisa for wrap up.
Thanks so much, Anne. Thanks for being our host, especially with all of the technical challenges and maneuvers, but I think this is a great way to engage the group. Lisa put in the chat a little pulse survey, so if you could let us know what you thought of this format. We always love that we'll send it out in an email as well. Additionally, we want to plug some upcoming events. There is a chat next week, a fireside chat with Professor Joe Blatt. Jazib, I think, dropped, but he's going to be hosting a very interesting format for that fireside chat. So that's all the promotion it needs. That'll be next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And then we're going to be hosting a Crimson Career or Crimson Connect networking event with especially for our international students who are starting to think about what comes after HGSC on March 28th. So that's in 2 weeks on a Tuesday. And that one will be from 9 to 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So if you feel like you have something to contribute to our international students seeking their next after HGSC roles, please do join us for that event. And we are delighted that you all made the time today. So thank you again. We'll send out everybody a connection info in our follow-up as well, so that you can be sure to connect with folks with their LinkedIn or their emails or all of that jazz. Thank you again.
Take care. Have a good afternoon, evening.
Thanks, Jen.
morning, wherever you
Appreciate
are.
Bye.